20 years that I've lived here in the area. But I'm Steve Brown. I live over in Salem. Of course, we're all of us who live in, whether it's Salem or Cleaver or Wilmot or Camp Lake, it's all the village of Salem Lakes now, as we all know. Anyway, before I make some comments, I just want to say that all the work that everyone does, Sandy, Laura, and in the past with Linda Valentine, all the incredible work that everyone did was just incredible. I'm currently on the Salem School Board and have been for 6 years and just got reelected for another 3 years. No opposition, so I always like that. But it was great going over into the schoolhouse over there. Anyway, I just wanted to talk a few minutes. First of all, I did a little bit of research about this building. And as some of you might know, this building was moved here in 1922, so this is the 100th anniversary. And this was part of the barracks at Fort Sheridan. And by the way, how many of you have been to Fort Sheridan? Actually, at Fort Sheridan. I've been there a number of times. I wrote down a little bit of information about it, and after I read it, I realized that I sort of knew about it in the past, but it brought back some interesting facts. And I'll just briefly mention this. The site of Fort Sheridan was located on an old trail between Green Bay, Wisconsin, and the area that was soon to become Chicago. And it was actually created and I don't want to say founded by, but the Potawatomi tribe. They were involved with that part of both what is now Illinois and what is now Wisconsin. Anyway, after the, and there was a small community called St. John's, and that was settled in the 1840s. After the Great Fire in Chicago in 1871, Civil War General Philip Sheridan, he headed up the division that was responsible for maintaining law and order in that area. Because after that fire in 1871, there was a lot of people who were looting and doing all kinds of things. Anyway, General Sheridan's expertise was needed immediately, and then later he became the commanding general of the United States Army in 1883. So the history with General Sheridan is really remarkable. So this building was one of the barracks where the men, I don't think there were any women at that time in the Army there, but this barracks was moved here in 1922, but it was probably, I have no idea what the how old the actual building is. In the research I did, probably the late 1800s, the most likely. But anyway, I just wanted to talk a bit about my military experience. When I was in high school, and I was born in California, but the family moved to Florida when I was 4 or 5. And in high school, I went to high school down in Miami, Florida. And I had 2 teachers, and it's because of these 2 teachers that I'm here today. It's because of these 2 teachers, who was a history teacher and a music teacher, who knew that I had a lot of problems at home. I had a stepfather who was not very nice, and I was going to drop out of high school and go into the Air Force like my older brothers. And I later was in Air Force ROTC for a couple of years, and then joined the Army Reserves for 7 years. But it was those 2 teachers who helped to keep me in school. So every time I go into any school, and not just because I'm on the school board, but I've been a classroom teacher and a principal and taught at the university level. But I never forget that those 2 teachers, Doris Ann Johnson and Jessie Wilson, okay? They said to me, Steve, we want to do something to help you. And these 2 teachers did this on their own. They did not know that the other was helping me. So they helped to keep me in school. They helped to give me some focus, which I don't always have. And as Laura knows, I try to have focus. I've been involved in writing screenplays and radio theater drama. In fact, my friend Mike Olstrup and Mike is the deputy clerk in the village of Salem Lakes, but Mike and I wrote a murder mystery about the Louis Durler murders at what is now Town Square. So, and our first broadcast there was, 7 or 8 years ago? And then we did it again and it won some awards. But anyway, my experiences in the military, by the way, how many of you have served in the military? And you know what, I'm going to say something that some people say, and I'm not always sure if they're absolutely sincere when they say it, and that is thank all of you for your service to our nation. And that is so important. And sometimes people just say that, like, have a nice day. You know, and I know not everyone means it that way. When I say it, I mean it, and all of us who have served in the military. And I've had students in my graduate classes when I taught at Northeastern Illinois University and also the University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh, men and women who were military veterans. And if I were wearing my Army cap, I would take it off and say thank you and thank them for all their service. But in serving in the military, I'll just talk briefly about that. I was based in the unit in Tampa, Florida, but we were assigned to the 82nd Airborne at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And by the way, military from Fort Bragg are in Poland right now. They're in all the areas that are being attacked by the Russians in Ukraine, which is terrible, horrible. Something's got to be done about it. I don't want to get political, but you know what they always say? Everything is political. But I'm not going to get into politics, left, right, red, blue, any other color. But what's happening in Ukraine, some of my ancestors were from Ukraine, and Estonia, and Lithuania. So, you know, I cannot imagine what everyone there is going through today. The men, women, children, and we all hear these reports every day. But anyway, being assigned to the 82nd Airborne, I was in what was called a public information unit. So we provided public information to the world about what the 82nd Airborne was doing. And this was in the 70s and into the 80s. But also it was somewhat involved with intelligence. And after I left there and my ex-wife and I moved to Iowa, I joined the military intelligence unit. And there are things that I remember that we studied, that we were told about, that I cannot talk about today because I didn't have the highest level of security. And I was an enlisted man, by the way. I was a sergeant. And we were told information that even today, and when I signed that oath for that secret security clearance, that oath was to never talk about things that I was told in briefings, and we even gave briefings to the Joint Chiefs of Staff and also worked at CIA in Langley, Virginia. So those experiences are still, you know, bright and shiny in my head, if you will. But they would always say that, here, let's get the sheet of paper, that if I read something in the newspaper, in the Kenosha News, in any newspaper, and it said something that we were told in a top secret briefing, we still couldn't talk about it. I still couldn't say, you know, I knew that these things were happening in Poland or in any part of the world, because it was still during the time with it was still during a time where we had that security clearance. One of the things that Laura knows that in being a writer as well as a teacher and other things that I've done, broadcasting and whatever, is that I have written stage plays along with Mike Olstrup about World War II. And these are stage plays about Bletchley Park outside of London. And they broke the German code there. There's a wonderful movie called The Enigma. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that movie. But the work that they did to break that German code, the Enigma code, was just incredible. Anyway, that's really all I had to say. I just wanted to say that being here is always wonderful. And this is probably in the 20 years that I've lived here in the area, probably the 7th or 8th time that I've been here. Number one, I need to come here more often. And number two, I think what this center does, what this Historical Society Center does, and the one-room schoolhouse is absolutely incredible. But anyway, I will stop, because there's cake and juice and coffee and whatever. But anyway, anyone have any questions at all? I mean, about anything? And thank you, sir. We were talking. What's your Tom? Rick. But
your eyes open up on anyone.
yeah. But anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, sir.